Hey guys, it's Paul House of paulhouse.com, and today I'm showing you how to get a huge and wide 808 or sub bass that even sounds amazing on cell phones. And before we dive into that, please visit my website paulhouse.com to get your free copy of the Mixing Bible, which is a checklist that I put together for you to use on every mix. So the problem with 808s and sub basses and any low-end frequency material really is that it's barely audible on cell phones or laptops or something like this, right? So you want to make sure that your 808 and sub bass punch through even on those small devices. But a lot of people are doing it wrong, and they will run into problems later on, even if they don't recognize the problem right in the beginning. So this is why I put together this little walkthrough on how I use different methods to get a huge and wide 808 so that it's compatible in mono, so that you wouldn't have any problems when your song is played in the club. So enjoy this video. Okay, so we're working with this instrumental. It was produced by myself, and let's have a listen. Okay, so the sub bass sounds alright, but I would like to make it stand out more and more importantly translatable to systems without a low bass response, such as iPhones, laptops and so on. You have to keep in mind that listeners or potential customers are likely to make decisions about your track while listening on their phone. So you want to make sure that your bass is huge on there as well. So if you just turn up your 808 or sub bass, this really won't do the job for you. You will lose a lot of headroom, everything would get too bassy, but here's the trick how you can make a bass cut through on all speakers. I've just a regular sub bass here by Logic's own Alchemy synth. It's called Deep Sub Bass, in case you'd like to use it. This is it. And before we even begin processing this bass, let's render it to audio. And here you have it. Okay, first let's duplicate the bass. And let's name it low bass and high bass. And you can imagine why we are going to do this. Yes, we're going to treat the low bass and the high bass information differently. So first of all, let's apply an EQ. I like the Fab Filter one, as you know. And let's cut down everything up to 120 Hertz or so on the low bass, and on the high bass, the opposite, low cut filter, and everything below 120 is cut out. So now you can see everything below 120 is cut on the high bass, and everything from 120 on the low bass is cut out as well. And I like to do it this way because I can treat the high information differently than the low bass information. For example, I only would like to sidechain the low bass and not the high bass. But before we go on here, a lot of people don't get this right. If you use processing like this, be sure that you don't run into phase issues. A standard EQ works based on phase change, and to avoid the problem, we can switch the mode of this EQ to linear phase mode on both EQs. And this way, the absolute phase of everything stays the same. And eventually the low end stays more consistent this way. You can recognize phase issues easily, for example if you switch your whole track to mono. If some frequencies, especially the low frequencies, are getting lost or weaker, then you probably have phase issues. So you might want to double check that if you use this technique. So let's hear what we got until now. Okay, first of all, let's sidechain the low bass with a kick, and afterwards we're going to process heavily the high bass. I've put it on kick. Then we're going to the expert mode, external. Okay, now that we have the low frequencies out of the way, let's get to the high frequencies. So we really have to emphasize this track so it becomes audible on all devices. Let's get some cool harmonics in there. First of all, with subtle distortion, harmonic distortion, and let's try Decapitator. Here how some upper harmonics are getting added to the signal. You can also see that with an analyzer. You can really see here how harmonics are being added to the signal. And this is what you can hear on all devices and what makes the sub bass or the 808 big and huge. And also you can try to emphasize the beautiful frequencies of this distortion with an EQ or within this distortion plugin itself. Well, let's try an EQ. But before that, we don't have to forget to put a low cut on the distortion plugin itself. As you can see, a lot of low information were added in as well. So let's put in a low cut here. You even can put a low cut here as well to get more drastic. And this even sounds better if you apply another EQ filter, a low cut filter, as a last step. Now next up, I'd like to use on the high bass part a stereo enhancement tool or a widening tool to make the sub bass or 808 appear wide and huge without affecting the very low end, because I would like to leave it in mono so that it's compatible with mono systems. So let's widen the high part here. So let's just use the side widener here. Okay, so the high bass part is now pretty wide and buzzy. We emphasized the buzziness of this high bass part. And let's compare those two in solo first and then within the whole instrumental. This is what we started with. And this is our final result. In the mix, first what we started with, and then I'm going to switch it back to our processed bass. Okay, there you have it. This is how you get a huge and wide 808 or sub bass that sounds amazing on all devices. And here's a bonus tip for you. You don't always have to do it this way, because there are some pretty nice plugins on the market, some widening plugins that will ensure that it's always mono compatible. So you might want to look into those more expensive plugins. And also there are some multi-band distortion plugins that you can put on, as well as the side wideners. They stay compatible in mono, so you wouldn't necessarily need to have two bass tracks, high and low, but you can do it in one track if you want to. But this is a safe way to do it, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave me a comment and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.